Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live for the week of October 27, 2019. We are almost done with the new year, and Halloween is coming up. And join me as always, developer on Project Triad, Indie Dev, Shark. How are you doing?
I just came in to say that you'll float too.
There we go. Nice little
I
shark there.
I'm doing good. I'd be doing better if you floated, but we'll we'll float you tonight in tonight's stream.
All right. It has once again been another crazy week around here. We finally hit 5,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. So thank you everybody so much for enjoying the content. Hope to continue things as well. I guess the next milestone is 10K. I have no idea when we'll hit that. We need to come up with some way to make me go viral. You got any suggestions there, Shark?
We can do a Hearthstone stream and tell Blizzard, that support China, or support the Hong Kong movement rather, and then they ban us and from Hearthstone for a year or two, and we'll get publicity from that.
Alright, let's do it. And I guess I should make a Fallout 76 is dying video too to go on top of that.
Wait, Fallout 76 was alive?
Eh, maybe for a little bit of time. I think for like 2 weeks.
For like 10 people?
Mm-hmm. But things are going well, still calling around to libraries, and we're in the final steps of setting up for locking down book number 3. So can't wait to do that. And we finally got to play some classic PlayStation 2 games on the stream here, thanks to my adapter and capture card. So we've been enjoying Castlevania and marveling at the I guess the haziness of Silent Hill 2 on the being trying to upscale to HD.
Yeah, it was definitely hazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was definitely enjoying the Castlevania ones.
Mm-hmm. We're almost done with that too, and my voice is dying at the same time. Whew. Yeah, yesterday was not a great day. I woke up and the entire room was spinning, so I think I was getting a migraine or something. So that pretty much knocked out all of Saturday. So this weekend was kind of just like somewhere else.
Yeah, we could do the plant trees one.
Oh yeah.
I was actually thinking about that, like a topic on how trees and game development ties together.
Hmm. Well, we can add to the list then.
Well, we'd have to do it in the next podcast, pretty much, for it
Mm-hmm.
to have any kind of relevance.
Yeah. But we got two very interesting topics for this week, as well as talking about some of the news that's been going on. Uh-oh. Is my internet starting to act up? Okay, it's good. Of course, I think you two must have heard us, and now it's affecting the internet there.
Mm-mm.
But there's been some very strange news bits this week. So, do you want to start with one, Shark, about Blizzard?
Yeah. So this week, Blizzard, asked us, "Don't we have shovels again?" and
Mm-hmm.
digs themselves a bigger hole. By this week, they have gotten rid of their affiliate links for all their Hearthstone streamers. So they're like, yeah, all you Hearthstone streamers that making money, referring people to the game, getting more money that way. Yeah, we don't want you making money that way anymore. We're
Mm-hmm.
not paying you anymore, and we're cutting off that link, which now provides Hearthstone players yet another reason to not stream their game, to not market their game,
Mm-hmm.
and to sever ties with them forever. And because Blizzard doesn't want promotion or any. I can see part of the reason why they don't want promotion. Part of the legitimate reason
Mm-hmm.
is they don't want more attention brought up to the stuff in China and Hong Kong. But outside of that, in normal streams, I don't see a reason to cut off that kind of thing. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, some people are going to keep on streaming it, but I I would think. and hope that a lot will actually quit over this because Blizzard doesn't care about them. So why should they
Mm-hmm.
care about Blizzard?
Yep. Again, it's just like probably one of the most self-inflicted wounds we've seen a developer do in a long time.
Oh yeah, just many of them in back to back. Well, they might care if you're a streamer if you're in China.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they keep the affiliate links, but only if you're in the location based in China. But if you're in Hong Kong though, you're probably banned from Hearthstone for life.
Yep. And again, it still doesn't seem to be stopping BlizzCon. There's some rumors going on that they were going to cancel the festivities this year, but it sounds like they're still going on. They've already got leaks for it. The rumors now is that Overwatch is going to go free to play. There's an Overwatch 2 in development, which is very. That does seem kind of like uncharacteristic of Blizzard. Of course, Diablo Immortal, and possibly a Diablo 4. And I'm sure nobody will cause any trouble for Blizzard at the convention, right?
Yeah, I mean you have to look at it this way. If they cancel BlizzCon,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's going to instantly know exactly why they canceled it because of the Hong Kong China stuff, and there's going to be tons of backfire and stuff, and people you know quitting in masses because of that. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, if they continue on and do BlizzCon, then their hope is just censoring out any of that stuff. Which I I get the feeling they're overconfident. Because why would they cut their affiliate links with streamers if they weren't overconfident?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so and it's been it's such a late time to cancel it at this point. I would have thought that they would cancel it before if they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see that train stopping. I do not see them stopping the BlizzCon, especially when they're planning on making their release for Diablo 4. Probably hoping that that's going to earn them enough company leeway to be like, everybody's excited for Diablo 4. Let's forget about the China stuff.
Mm-hmm. We all know gamers, they don't forget or they don't remember these things, right? They don't hold grudges.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
But a lot of people, you know, are less aware of things and will simply wash over them because of Diablo 4.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, I hope they include an in-house an auction house system again, because that worked so well the last time.
actually, speaking of that, like I have something along that lines that we're putting in Project Triad, and I'm doing it in such a way that hopefully it does not backfire on us the way they did by
Mm.
putting the NPC in between the consumers. Because if you just let two consumers just willy nilly do whatever they want together, trouble's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have an NPC that regulates things in between, I think that changes quite a bit.
Huh?
But
We'll definitely see on that one. Now, in terms of other news that's going on, speaking about games like Rising from the Dead or coming back in very weird ways, it's been announced that Payday 2 is back in development. The game that supposedly ended last year is now going to be getting more content being developed both in paid and free DLC. Now, for those of you who missed the big news, Starbreeze, the publisher for Overkill and Mega Company, they basically, essentially, they ran out of money. Despite the success of Payday 2, they were blowing it on so many failed business ventures. It wasn't funny. They did a Raid World War II game. Overkill's the Walking Dead, that also failed. It seems like The Walking Dead's like a curse. Like every developer makes a game for it, goes out of business.
mm,
But they just completely ran out of money. Essentially, Payday 2 was keeping the studio afloat. And then after it ended and those issues, everything was looking like Starbreeze was going to be heading to bankruptcy. And instead, it's coming back as essentially as a means of trying to get funding for Payday 3. And I'm trying to see here. Yeah, so it earned them a lot of money. They got over looks like 2 million in quarterly sales out of Payday 2. And they're trying, and essentially they're going back on their promise not to release game-changing content as paid DLC. So, and of course they're apologizing on all that. But it's a very weird case because Payday 2 was done. Like, they released an ending to it, it was done, over, and now it's essentially coming back as, I guess, a metaphorical life raft to try and get Overkill and Starbreeze more funding.
Yeah, I would like to know if its original developer is working on it or not. Do we have a confirmation on that, or?
I would like to say yes, but I don't know. Like, it says it's still Overkill, a Starbreeze studio, but again, it's one of those very weird situations. I'm trying to see what's going on their forums right now.
Well, I've never been a fan of that game, but I know it's got a large fan base and everything, and I got several friends that play it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is the same developers, I am all for it because they don't need to lose their jobs for one, and they made games that people enjoyed. They had some issues with some corruption behind the scenes, but that's been purged now. So hopefully they can come back and do well.
And again, like, it's a very weird case because Payday 2 is not a bad game. It succeeded well above expectations, but everything around Payday 2 caused the company to fail.
What do you mean?
Like, Payday 2 was earning them enough money to keep Overkill and Starbreeze afloat, but then the bad business decisions happened, The Walking Dead, The Raid, and all that. So, like, the game succeeded, but the company still went out of business, or almost went out of business despite it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a perfect example of that that I was really close to in a card game called Dot Hack, which I was like number 7th in the world for world rankings on that card game, and best card game I've ever played. And that game was wildly successful, and the company Decipher Inc. I think is what it was. They made tons of other card games, which several of them were good, but they kept on making card game after card game. Like every 2 months, they would come out with a new card game, and none of them were really successful. Part of the reason why that was is because they were shooting their own selves in the foot by taking their market from one game to the other, kind of thing. So that was part of the reason, and they just did so many of them, and they just ended up killing themselves. Basically, the only thing that actually made money was the Dot Hack card game, and then they sold the company. And when they sold the company, the license did not transfer. So the new company that bought them was going to continue the Dot Hack card game, but the makers of Dot Hack, the video game, said, "Nope, we're not giving you the license. We're not letting you have the license." So the card game ended there. That's a lesson for licensing in video games.
Yeah, and Payday 2 again, like, they went crazy in terms of spending their money. They did collaborations with H3H3, Hotline Miami, John Wick, Hardcore Henry. I think there are several other like movie. Oh, yeah, Scarface they did as well. And those licensing did not. I bet it did not come cheap.
Yeah, it probably didn't. Licenses are often very expensive,
Mm,
depending on what they are. I mean, generally, if there's something you would like to license, it's probably expensive.
yeah. And again, like it's so crazy how that game developed. I mean, it kind of runs into that similar trek or similar path that Team Fortress 2 did. That as the game added in more content and more elements, it kind of moved away from that original concept. And like Payday 2, like at the end of its life, was just this like nonsensical mess of lore and we're bank robbers, but we can use rocket launchers, mini guns, and all that other crazy stuff.
I mean, if you were a bank robber, wouldn't you use a rocket launcher and a minigun?
Especially for stealth, right?
Oh yeah, especially you playing stealth.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that is you in stealth in a nutshell.
Yeah. Can I get a silenced minigun?
No, 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 no. See, the thing is every time I've seen you ever play stealth, you always do the anti-stealthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me, you're supposed to creep from point A to point B. Let me just run as fast as I can, make a lot of noise,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
shoot people on the way.
Mm-hmm.
So that the rocket launcher and the minigun would perfectly fit your kind of stealth.
Mm-hmm. Or just let me be Batman. That just solves everything.
Oh, now I need the old bat signal, shark
Mm-hmm.
signal
But
icon.
it's going to be, I think, weird to see what they're going to do with Payday 2. Because they even had a second studio make content for it. I think it was Game Dev Lion, Game Lion, something like that. And then they did the World War II raid game, which was horrible. I don't know if that studio is still in business. But it just became this like very like weird mishmash of content by the end of it. I know people really want to see a Payday 3, but again, it begs the question, if this is how they're going to make Payday to bring Payday 2 back, what could they do with Payday 3?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think with that, let's get to our first topic because we have two meaty ones to go over today. So we'll start with the time and value one because I think that one will probably take up more, well, no pun intended, more time to talk about. So we had this discussion last week about that ever popular topic of equating the amount of time spent on a game to the price and the issues and problems that go with that. And it's a very weird metric because it's one that I think everyone has used at least at one point in their time. Like if you look on forums of games and people are about pricing, they'll say, for the price of a coffee, I get a 5 hour long experience. And I don't know, I've moved away from equating time to value. I guess what do you think about that?
Well, in my research, and I've done research on this topic, it seems like there's definitely a correlation, at least on my side. I'm sure that maybe my side is not, the end all be all kind of thing because everybody has their own perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like my side will definitely give some kind of insight into things, and the way I wrote out this research is I picked 13 varying games based not just off of the games themselves being different, but the fact of how I feel about them was very different.
Mm-hmm.
Some that I really felt good about, some that I felt about, some I felt bad about, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and tried to get a good mix. And I took all those and then I put in not how long the game itself is, but how many hours I put into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put, list the price that they're currently selling at because I can't go back in time and figure out what they were selling at when I bought them or
Mm-hmm.
even originally on day one. I could probably use the internet machine to find out what day one was, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
buy these on day one, so we're just going off of current prices.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also a good, because like inflation and all that has an effect. So I think that current day pricing is a fair metric to go off of.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rated them on 1 to 10 based on my enjoyment of the game. And then at the end, I put my end feeling on it and how I felt if felt like I got a good deal, felt like I way underpaid for the game. I was
Mm-hmm.
amazed with the pricing, felt slightly ripped off, it's so, etc. And charted these out, and through my for a little bit of let's go over a few. Like, should I include the names of the games, or should I leave those kind of?
You can mention names. I'll be mentioning some of mine too.
Okay. So when we were looking at the time order, because I ordered these in all different kinds of brackets. So in time order, my highest is 7 Days to Die, and it's got
Mm-hmm.
1,601 hours into it. The price is $25. My enjoyment was 10. I absolutely love that
Mm-hmm.
game. And my in feeling was I underpaid, and that's even after I bought like 3 or 4 copies of it and gave it to friends. Like, I still feel like I underpaid for that game. Another one, not this is like a fourth in my order of time. It's a FTL with 91 hours and price of $10. Again, enjoyment of 10, and I feel like I underpaid for that game.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, on the low side times, I mean, we have The Siege. Everybody knows that game pretty much. I only got 2 hours into it, and the price was $2, $10 rather, and my enjoyment was two.
Mm-hmm.
I I I really was hoping that that game was going to be amazing and everything, but the whole building, the things being too fragile, things not working the way they should, it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't enough for me to go out more hours. And in the end, I felt ripped off. Um, then we have like price order, like top of the prices of the ones I put was like Factorio. Factorio's $30, and they're notorious for never
Mm-hmm.
going on sale.
Yeah.
I got 409 hours into it. My enjoyment was 10, and I felt underpaid. I underpaid for the game. Where on the bottom side of that, we have like Kingdoms and Castles, which I put 29 hours in. It's a $10 game. I enjoyed it with a 9, and I felt like it was a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go up a little bit higher to let's go to a mid tier on price. We have Into the Breach for $15. I put 7 hours into it, enjoyment of 6, and I was so on the
Mm-hmm.
feeling on the whether I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then we got now we go to enjoyment order. Like one of the top ones we got there is Legends of Heroes: Trails in the Sky, which is a huge RPG series.
Mm-hmm.
I got 68 hours into it. It's $20. I had a 10 uh, uh, enjoyment of it, and I was amazed with the price.
Mm-hmm.
But on the bottom side of that, let's look at let's see here. Let's go with Bomber Crew. Bomber Crew, I had 3 hours in with $15 and an enjoyment of 6, and it was
Mm-hmm.
for the in feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, what I found for myself personally is that um, price really didn't matter. Price really wasn't too much of a factor. It
Yeah.
was mostly what it was the hours that I put into the game almost 100% corresponded with the enjoyment I had of the game. And I mean that really makes sense because the more you enjoy it, the more you'll probably play it. Um, which that often leads to me feeling like I made a good deal. But as that enjoyment goes down, I'm more harsh on the price, and that's
Yeah.
where it seems that the I get start losing the in feeling kind of thing.
Hmm.
The only real exception to that was the let's see here, Kingdom Two Crowns.
Hmm.
So Kingdom Two Crowns, I had 25 hours into it. I paid $20 for it. Had a 9 enjoyment of it. So you'd be like, okay, well, you're going to feel like you got a good deal. But no, rather, I felt slightly ripped off on that one. And the reason why is because I played Kingdom, the two games before that, and they both felt like incomplete alphas, where Kingdom Two Crowns feels like the actual release game. So I just bought. It's like I bought the alpha and then I bought the beta and now I bought the release game, and so now between the three purchases together, I'm up to maybe $50 in the game, and that's really quite steep.
Hmm.
So I view that one as like a purchase for all three, because it's there's once I own Kingdom of Two Crowns, there is absolutely zero enjoyment, zero anything I could get out of the two before it, because they're the same thing, just with less. The only thing different is they have slightly different maps, which are maps are very generic, and they could easily put a random gen in there and it
Hmm.
would benefit the game greatly. So I mean, but I did find that pattern to where it didn't matter what the price was unless I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is part of the reason why AAA games often get away with the $60 price tag, because a lot of people really enjoy those games.
They're always, we've said this before, they're very competently made. You're not usually going to play a AAA game for a unique experience, but you're going to get a very polished experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to find out what you've figured out on your side,
Yeah, I
your
was
games.
going through some of the games on my list. Now, the thing about me that I think you have to realize, and this for the audience as well, is that I get a lot of my games through press keys these days. So it's rare that I buy a game, let alone buy one at full price. But it does happen occasionally. So I'm going to go through my list here. So the first one is one I think is obvious to everyone. That's the Buying of Isaac. So I bought the Binding of Isaac, $15, as well as the expansion. So that's another $11. So let's say it's about $26. And
Mm-hmm.
I spent 285 hours, according to Steam, playing that game. So I definitely got my money's worth on that one. Oh, Dragon. Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's sadly the way a lot of AAAs are going,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to end that feeling, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Now, in terms of kind of like being the opposite from other people, I bought Crusader Kings 2. This I know was a bundle that I got off of Humble, so I think this was maybe like a $10 to $15 purchase. I have apparently looks like about 20 pieces of DLC for that game. No idea what any of them are, by the way. And I have spent a sum total of 43 minutes on that game. So
Mm.
I don't really think I got my money's worth out of that one. Another case. Oh, here's a fun one in terms of just breaking the curve whatsoever. I have Goddess that I got the horrible game from Pure Molyneux. Due to a pricing issue, I got that game for -$3 off of Green Man Gaming, and I don't think I got my value out of that one.
You think they should have paid you more?
Yeah, I think so. Let's see, where is it? In terms of one of the more, I think this will probably be my most played game. Yeah, definitely. That would go to Left 4 Dead 2. And if Thorne is watching this right now, he will probably agree with that one. So I bought that game. It's on sale. It's on sale for $2 right now. Why aren't you people buying it? All you people complain about a multiplayer game. Go get it. But I know I got that game at full price, so I think that was $29 or $39. I think I got in on a bundle for it. And how many hours do you think I have played in that one, Shark? Let's see if you can guess.
Probably a few thousand.
I have 899 hours in Left 4 Dead 2 and 369 hours in Left 4 Dead 1. So I got my money's worth and then some out of it. But as another interesting point, I have a friend who spent several thousand hours so far in Team Fortress 2. And my time in that, this is a bad time. I can't find Team Fortress on my list. Here it is, 102 hours. Now that's a weird point. I think this is one I want to ask you about, Shark, and for the chat. I got Team Fortress 2 in the orange box, which for those of you who don't remember that, it was a $30 purchase that got you Portal, Half-Life 2, and Team Fortress 2 all together. It was essentially Valve's way of breaking, or basically being like the Trojan horse for Steam. And I'll tell you, that was officially the first thing that I got for Steam, like getting it back on my computer. And if we go by the combination of those three games, then $30 was very low for that amount of value. So what do you think when we bundle games together? Like, how does that really affect your perception of pricing?
Honestly, don't know. I haven't ever bought a bundle really. Well, I take that back. I did buy one bundle, and that was from the Recitateer developer, where I bought almost every one of their game, including Recitateer, or however you say the name of that game. Got Fortune Summoner, a few others in there. Yeah. I can't remember how much I paid for it though.
Yeah. Now, here's some very interesting cases for me, because I think, like you, Shark, like when we start talking about like major releases and higher up costs, it tends to be, I think, less amount of time spent and less amount of value. So, XCOM 2 is one of my favorite games. I know I bought that even with I had a Green Man Gaming code for, so I spent $40 for the game plus an additional. What was it? It was $40. Then I spent another $40, or I think I got $30 of another code for XCOM 2 War of the Chosen. So that was about $70. I think I spent an additional $10 for the pre-order bundle, whatever it was back then. So we can say at least, let's say, $80 to $90 off of that game. And I have only spent 37 hours on it. And
yeah, I think that's an interesting one, because I have a very similar thing in XCOM 2, where I don't remember how much I paid for it, a good bit, and I've only played it for 25 hours. I both loved it and hated it.
Yeah,
I
me too.
It in the way that the gameplay loop was, but I hated it as of the bugs and all the issues that they had in there. And I quit playing it because waiting for them to fix the bugs, which, as far as I know, they never did. They just released the update, which, if you buy that DLC, supposedly it fixes a lot of the bugs. But you don't get the bug fixes if you don't buy the update, which really kind of pissed me off.
Yeah. And speaking about Firaxis, like, the Civilization games are some of the most heavily played games like on the planet, especially as a AAA title. So I have Civilization 5 in my list here. I know I bought that either full price or on sale. So probably, let's say, $30 I spent to get Civ 5, maybe $20, I forget. I have 9 hours in that game. And right now, there's a Civ fan holding their chest in pain at the sound of that statement.
Probably. So what would you say your enjoyment was on that one?
Not that much. I found it to be like it just really wasn't clicking for me. And I think another thing that kind of skews my readings about these games is that, as you guys know, when I play games, I play them very analytically. Like, I get a lot more out of 15 minutes of playing a game than I think the general consumer does. Oh, thank you, Hundy. But like for me, like, and I said this is why when I say that a game has 15 to 30 minutes to hook me, is that during those 15 to 30 minutes, I'm like in like a laser focus, like what's it like the RoboCop visor on these games or Terminator, like all like the stats like in my UI there, and it's a lot easier I think for me to break down a game in a shorter amount of time than other people. But if a game hooks me, like I said, if that game passes my 15 to 30 minute check, I will typically go the distance with it. Like to give you an example, Renowned Explorers International Society, which where is it? I know I bought the game at full price, but I got the DLC for free. I got that game for $20. So it has another $14 of game affecting DLC to it, and I spent 82 hours on that game.
So you spent how much money and you got how much hour? You got 82 hours?
I bought the game for 20. There was about $15 of DLC, but I got that for free as like my press keys. So I definitely got my money's worth on that. But then I think this was how we started this conversation last week. I played Shadow Tactics. Let me get the full name of it. Where is it? I have so many games that have Shadow. Here it is. Shadow Tactics Blades of the Shogun. This was a critically and commercially successful game that a lot of people loved. Yeah, go for it, honey. We can throw that in as well. Or we can save it. We'll make it its own topic, too. But I bought that game is priced $40. I waited until, like, thanks to, like, bundling and sales, I got that for $24. And I have 2 hours in it. And that's it. So when we go by, like, enjoyment and price, that is a, easily an F. In, an F grade there. And... yeah. That's the thing, like, and I agree with you, Shark, that we think about price more when we're not enthusiastic about that game. Like, again, like, ask anyone who plays, like, a free-to-play or a long-term game, they're probably not thinking about price. Like, I actually have a perfect example for you. That Marvel Strike Force game that I've been playing on mobile, again, it's free-to-play, if in case for those of you listening, that I threw in some air quotes there. And they have these insane pricing when like new characters are added. There's a character in my little guild or alliance, whatever they call it, who every time there's a new character release, they have it day one. And those day one pricing for it is at least $40 to $60 per character. So this person must have spent easily above $500 so far in this game. And for my point, I have spent a sum total of $3.45 on the game so far.
Yeah, that goes along with my data. My data says that basically, if you really enjoy the game, then you're more than likely going to have more hours in the game. Mm-hmm. And if you're really enjoying it and having a lot of hours into it, then you're more than likely going to feel like you got a good deal no matter what the price is. It could be a $200 price tag, and you will, if you really enjoyed the game, you may just feel like you underpaid for that game.
Yeah.
So I feel almost like pricing has no applicable instance here unless you're not enjoying the game, or if the game is just all right kind of thing. If you're really enjoying it, it looks like price has no weight to the thing. And the only weight that I would say it would be on preventing you from opening your wallet to actually make the purchase to begin with before you actually know how much you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point about this, that the pricing is simply just the initial barrier to get somebody's foot through the door. Once they're through it and they're enjoying it, they're not really thinking about that much. And I think that's kind of been like one of the major points about the free-to-play market and how it grew. because it removed that barrier. I can play all these games for free. Oh, what's $1 here? What's $5 here? Again and again. Uh,
Yeah, and now that we have all the free to play games, now that made that barrier for price even steeper, which is, I think, the reason why we've seen a downtrend in Steam game prices on the indie side,
mhm.
because there's so many free to play games on Steam.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing an opposite trend to where games are going up in price. We talked about that in the, what was that, the last cast?
Yeah. And that brings in Disco Elysium, which we'll come back. We'll talk about that one in a second. I have one other example I want to bring up, and that's, of course, Payday 2. So, Payday 2, I'm going to say the time first. I have, wow, almost as much as Left 4 Dead. I have 897 hours in Payday 2.
Mm.
But the difference is I've spent more money on that one than I did in Left 4 Dead. So I bought that game day one. I was part of a 4-pack bundle, so I think I got it for $34. But then this is where things get very confusing. There is 51 pieces of DLC for the game, ranging in price. So every time there was a new heist, that was, I think, a $7 purchase. Every time there was a new gun or character bundle, that was $4.99. So I can't even calculate anymore how much I've spent, because they've also lowered the pricing on all the DLC as well. And I must have spent easily, I think, over about 100 or more on Payday 2 at this point. Even with buying all the DLC at discount, there was so much of it.
Well, if you bought seven, if they were $7 a piece, and you bought them at that price, and you bought just 50 of them, that's $350 right there.
Yeah. But I always waited for discounts, so I usually got them at half off, so $2 to $4 per DLC for me.
So then that would be like $175 or so,
Yeah. So
plus your original buying cost, plus the, how many did you say?
there's
Because that was only 50.
51, but some of it was free. Like, again, like the content upgrade. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So maybe 9 of those DLCs were free.
Hmm.
Again, it's very confusing in terms of how that pricing works for it.
And you
But
said you paid 30 originally, so you probably paid like maybe 180 total after all the
somewhere around
DLCs.
that at the end. So in that case, I think I got my money's worth out of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like that right there is the example that developers want. They want somebody to buy a game and then keep throwing more money at it. Killing Floor 2 is a really good example of that. But that one just went for more of that DLC or the in-game microtransactions. And the reason why they do that, I think, is very obvious. Because it obscures, I think, really how much money is going into that game.
Yeah.
Like, right now, it releases, Killing Floor 2 has a lot of free updates to the game, but all the cosmetics and bonus stuff are usually tied to microtransactions. So that game, I think it was $30 or $40 at launch. Again, I got a press key for it, but oh my goodness. Like, their DLC is insane for that game.
Yeah, I mean, there's some games on there that have like you calculate all their DLC, and it's thousands upon thousands of dollars, and it's like, oh no, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, no, no.
And there's one thing that we didn't talk about, that games that have had negative reception to adding in more content and what happens. Like Warhammer Vermintide 2, I was just looking at that on my list. That last expansion for $20, I felt that negatively added to that game. Because you could only play, like, it was just like a weird, like, decisions around that DLC.
Well, I would say I would think of DLC separate from the game,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, in a lot of purposes, because like I don't really buy DLC. I think I bought, actually I don't think I've ever bought a DLC in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but most of the time I won't buy DLC because either the games that I'm interested in, they actually go out to completion and they don't do DLC kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
or or it's a game that I really wasn't enjoying that has DLC kind of thing, or that it was all right kind of experience, and then I look at the DLC. Oh, it adds a new character skin and a couple of items that I have no need of because I've already beat the game. For
Yeah.
$5, you got to be kidding me. There's no worth in that. A character skin and a couple items for a game I've
Yeah.
already beat is worthless to me.
Yeah. And again, that's why I think like Firaxis with the XCOM expansions, like that is insane value. But as you said, they kind of it was kind of like that old timey supervillain plot, poisoning the well and then selling the cure back to the people. Because it did fix a lot of problems with XCOM 2 and added a lot more in the same breath. But again, it's like you know all those issues you had with the original XCOM 2. Here's a solution. Give us $40 for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll move on to this question from chat, but let's get to the final. Here's my final question, then I'll throw it to you, Shar, if you have anything else you want to add. And that is, of course, Disco Elysium. So this game came out, I think it was last week, and it's been getting a lot of praise, a lot of press and coverage for it. Oh, here it is, on the 15th, and I think this is either the first or second game from the company, kind of like the Dead Cells kind of situation here. And this game from an indie developer with very few credits to their name is being sold for $40. And I know we talked about this last week, like that took us both by surprise.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was really worth that kind of money. I haven't played it, so I don't actually know.
Yeah.
But as we talked before, we think that there's the price can make things look better and feel better.
Yeah.
I'll rehash this little thing that from last cast is there was a test done where they cooked two steaks.
Mm-hmm.
They were identical, as much as identical as you could get, from the same cow, right beside each other, same size, everything, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they cooked them on the same grill, and served them to people. But they served one in a cheap restaurant where they were only charging like
Mm-hmm.
$10 for the steak, and the other one they were charging like went to a more fancy restaurant and was charging like $100 for it. And it was the same exact steak. And the ones that had it for the cheaper price thought it was dry and all right, but nothing special. It was a underwhelming steak. Where the people that paid $100 for it raved about it because something about having more money in the game
Mm-hmm.
basically makes it somewhat more enjoyable. So psychologically,
Yeah.
so maybe looking back at our thing, the enjoyment score might go up the higher the price goes up. So
Mm-hmm.
you might be able to artificially raise the enjoyment by raising the price. And if that's the case, it's still not going to compensate if you have a bad game. People are still going to, dislike it if you got a bad game. And it is going to be a higher barrier to entry, but it might make people feel better about your game potentially.
Mm. And again, like one of the things that kind of skews a lot of this discussion are the quote unquote, artsy games. Stuff like Where the War Tastes Like Wine, Dear Esther, Gone Home, even stuff like Amnesia, Soma, etc. That were typically priced higher compared to contemporary games released at around that same time, and they were usually reviewed higher for kind of like the artistry of these games. Doing something different and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like pricing in games is such that very weird concept. Maybe we can bring this up when we try and do that roundtable cast with Ramin, that video games don't have that same kind of pricing as any other like commercial product. Like we said, like, if you put together a car, you can measure how much you have in that car by the parts that you use, paying the people hourly wages, keeping your business going, things like that, and you can factor that into that price. You can't do that with a video game.
Yeah. Definitely Rage brings up a good point that goes right along with it. It's a sunken cost fallacy
Mm-hmm.
to, so like if your game costs more, people are
Yep.
going to be more invested in it because it costs more, which means they're going to inherently get more enjoyment out of it because they're more invested in it.
Yep.
So maybe we just got a confirmation there that that is true.
And when I spoke with Ramin about this, we talked about how many mobile games are always about getting somebody to open up their wallet that first time because of the sunk cost fallacy. Because once I've spent money on this game, it inherently has more value to me, so I'm less likely to stop playing it. And for when he talked about it, he said that most people will not spend money on a free to play game for at least 18 days. Like, you need to keep them invested in that game for at least 18 days of their time before they'll consider spending money. But once you got them spending money, then, pretty much the sky's the limit there.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as definitely said at the same time, it's hard to get people to pay, but easy to get because, again, once they've sunk that cost in, you don't, because when you stop playing that game, it's almost like, you're throwing your money out. I spent $200 in whatever. If I uninstall it, that $200 is gone.
Yeah. So by having a higher price on your game at release, that means that people are going to be more invested in your game, keep on playing it after they buy it, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be that steeper wall, that harder wall to bridge. But at the same time, I think content creators and whatnot will be more willing to cover your game and promote it for you
Mm-hmm.
with the higher price because they see value in it. Or of course, they also see value in getting paid with sponsorships. So
Mm-hmm.
that's also a thing. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's not conclusive that you should make your game more expensive. You know, they should definitely be more expensive than what they are now because indie games are so low that it's very hard for an indie to survive right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what I would think about saying making your game $40 or whatever.
Yeah. And I think another thing that we didn't talk about, and this again I think may be too big for this topic, is the actual look and presentation of your game. Like,
Mm-hmm.
as we're talking right now, I have the Steam page of Disco Elysium up, and, they have two different trailers for the game. Lots of zooming in, showing all kinds of choices. The art looks distinctive. You can tell, again, by looking at this page, that work was put into this game. Now, conversely, I go to Queen's Wish by, of course, Spireweb Software, Jeff Vogue, and that game is priced at $20. And when you look at the screenshots, and again, I mean this with no disrespect to Jeff, it looks a lot like those RPG Maker games that we've made fun of in the past. A very generic look.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think presentation is definitely one key to get you over that hurdle. I mean, but you in theory need to get over that hurdle anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to need a good enough presentation to do it.
Yeah.
So, but we've already talked on length on another cast for the on the aesthetics of a game.
Mm-hmm. So before we move on to our next topic, then Shark, do you have anything you want to add regarding the time to money discussion?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. I think we can move on to the question Hunley asked.
All right, and to Draken's point, according to Steam, they have a total of 116 reviews right now for Queen's Wish. And because I keep bringing them up because I want this game to succeed, Vision Software said finally made over the 10 review mark. They're at 14 reviews right now.
Oh, wow, they tied us.
And I hate to say it, but I think some of that may have been me talking about this game the other day on Twitter.
It very well could have been.
Yeah.
You need to talk about Chromation more
Mm-hmm.
before it got removed.
All right, but before we do our weird game segment, let's go to Hundy's question because I don't think it's going to be that long because I don't know how much of our experience will work into it. But he asked, is it possible to make modern day cartridges for video games still that can hold lots of data, and can you put built-in protection on them as well? Like, is there a way to hinder/fight piracy via hardware design? So that is kind of two different questions.
Yeah. So what I would say to this is, I mean, if you can develop cartridges and stuff for like the original Nintendo, the original, Sega, all this kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going that route, you can definitely make them. You could probably put more memory on them, but the fact is they're very slow. So you probably would only be able to put memory on there to a certain point, and by that point, I mean making the games longer, not more work within the time period. So like just more levels rather than more things using memory at the same time kind of thing.
Yeah, you are limited by the hardware of the platform. There's only so much you can do. Like, even if you use like modern day stuff for today to make like a NES game, you're still not going to make a NES game look like a PlayStation 1 title, essentially. That's never going to happen.
Exactly.
And to your second point about copy protection, this was a major issue or major discussion back in the 80s and 90s with Nintendo. I remember reading this in the book Game Over, that what they did was they built a security chip into the NES hardware that corresponding NES cartridges, or I'm sorry, officially licensed NES cartridges, had the security chip built into it, and the chips would have to basically read each other in order for that cartridge to work. And Nintendo used this to not only monopolize the NES, but also monopolize the cartridges. Because again, back then you had to buy the cartridges to print the games on. So Nintendo was basically earning money every step of game development for their games. And it pissed off a lot of people because of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair, I mean, that's kind of the way it is now, too, because it's now it's just a 30%.
Yeah.
And then you have to pay for cartridges. So I think it's even worse now than it was then.
Yeah.
But it's worse industry-wide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are ways to use hardware to fight piracy, but you have to be really careful about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you were to go the kind of the other direction and make your own hardware kind of thing, I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, you can just, your cartridges could be, 10 terabyte SSDs just repackaged, as a cartridge. Just slot in that SSD, and you're off to the races. You've got your cartridge kind of thing, And there's like the what's the little cards? I forget their name.
SD cards.
Yeah, the SD cards. I mean, what's the big? Yeah, I think you can get like a 2 or 3 terabyte in those now.
Yeah, like Nintendo. I know they use like next gen SD cards for their games. Let me see. Switch. SD.
Yeah, but they use like 64 megabyte or 64 gigabyte, I think, something like that. 64, 32, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
but you can get a terabyte plus.
Yeah, according to a quick news piece, it said Nintendo Switch can theoretically use micro SD cards up to 2 terabytes. And again, like for us, like old timers, that just sounds like voodoo right there. That a card this big can hold a terabyte of data. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up like you, Char. Like we grew up in the '90s when like a memory stick was like this big and it was like 4 megs of RAM, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even fit 1 terabyte on my computer right now because I've almost got. I got like a, I don't know, like I got a 500. I've got a,
Mm-hmm.
I think a 240 drive and a 60 drive. So I'm almost to 1 terabyte. But I mean, I could get
Mm-hmm.
a 2 or 3, 4 terabyte thing that would just, little bitty microscopic thing, just
Yeah.
put it in my computer and just be like, bam.
My new computer sitting here is half the size of my old computer, and probably like 3 to 5 times more powerful than that one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But, kind of a little tangent on that is you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned doing the hardware
Mm-hmm.
to stop piracy. The thing is we've had a conversation before where piracy really doesn't have a negative effect on the game development
Mm-hmm.
because there's basically three kinds of pirates.
Yeah.
There's the kind that you don't have a demo or they don't have the money to put
Mm-hmm.
up front. They're not willing to risk it rather on the Steam's 2 hour refund rate,
Yeah.
and they sit there and they want to play your game. They grab it, they play it. If they enjoy it, they go buy the game. If they
Mm-hmm.
don't, they uninstall, kind of thing. And you're gaining a cell, not losing a cell by having to pirate it. The
Mm-hmm.
second kind of pirate is kids that don't have any money or disabled people that don't have any money. Somebody who doesn't have any kind of money to spend on games.
Or the
And
people that are like in another country and the exchange rate is so high. Like a
mhm,
$20 game is like $90 to $100 for them.
right. And for those, they'll download it because they'll pirate it because they can't afford to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And since they can't afford to buy it, they weren't going to buy it in the first place. So you're not losing anything, but you're potentially gaining a long term fan because
Mm-hmm.
if one day they can afford it, they're probably going to keep on buying your games.
Exactly.
So, again, a place where piracy becomes a good thing. And then the other type of pirate is pretty much just a, I don't know what term I can put this in, a a very bad person. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way. A
I
very
know a
bad
few of them
person.
as well. Yeah. I've known people like that. They're the pirates who they will pirate anything and everything. They don't care. They
Yeah.
pirated just to pirate it. They were never going to buy your game in the first place. They don't care about your game in the first place. It's essentially like, here's a list of 100 games on insert your favorite pirating site right here. I can't say or I will get in trouble. They'll just go down that list and pirate every game. I
Mhm.
remember, here's my little expose into GameStop. I was at a local GameStop, and the employees there hooked up a cracked Xbox, and they were literally going through and taking every used game that they could have, put it on the Xbox, download it to the system, and they basically had every game like at the store there.
Yeah. I mean, the with these pirates, they're not going to buy any games because they're going to
Mm-hmm.
they're going to pirate a game because they just why they have this mentality. Why would I pay for a game
If I can get it for
if I can
free.
get it for free?
Yep. And that was the other guy that I know. I remember he was driving me home from work. I was like, "So, what games do you like to play?" I gave him a list. He goes, "Okay, I'll look them up on Pirate Bay or wherever the website was at the time. I don't even know if they're even still there anymore." And I said, they're like $3. Like they're on sale. No, that's okay. I'll just pirate them. Like it
Yeah.
didn't matter if he and like going back to our previous conversation, it didn't matter if he got 50 hours of entertainment from those games. He got them for he doesn't care. He may have only played them for like 2 minutes, for all I know. But Like, he was never going to be a customer to these games no matter what. Doesn't matter if you tell him that it's the greatest kind of game ever made and, you'll never need another game again, he'll pirate it.
Yeah. So you're not losing anything there because there's nothing to gain there.
Mm-hmm.
Deathly Rage brings up the legit player that
Mm-hmm.
runs a game because of terrible DRM. Yeah, kind of. I mean,
And like going back to your
but
example, like sometimes people who pirate games will end up buying the game after the fact, usually as a show of support for the developer. But
mhm.
it's one of those very weird circumstances. Like the cynic in me is just saying, like, how often does that really happen though?
Yeah, it happens quite a bit, but I don't have any official numbers that I can say or anything.
Yeah.
But I've heard so many stories about it
Yeah.
happening all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
in the end, I mean, it seems to have like a conversion rate about like a demo does, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where if they pirate it and they enjoy it for a length of time, that basically a demo would be or
Yeah.
so, they go ahead and put their money down and buy it. Where if they don't, then they just uninstall the game because you
Mm-hmm.
can use all the free hard drive space you can have, and there's no point in
Yeah.
keeping a game on there that you're not going to play.
Yeah. But typically, I think you will probably agree with me on this one that as a developer, you don't want to make your game a hassle. You don't want. It's a difference between having DRM versus having something that punishes people for playing your game. And when we
Mm-hmm.
say punish, that can mean a lot of things. Some people find it punishing to have to include a CD in your computer. Back in the old days when we always needed drives to run CDs for our games.
Yeah, that was kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And the so I don't think DRM as a whole is bad. I just think that DRM that uses up a bunch of bandwidth and like drags your game down is very bad. I think that's very bad.
Yeah.
But the Steam DRM that is pretty much default and easy to put in, I think that's pretty reasonable because I mean, um, you don't have to be always online. All you have to do is if you lose your internet connection, you put Steam in offline mode and you're good.
How? What? Why is there an ice cream truck? It is parked right outside my house right now in October. I'm. I don't know. Wait, I think it's starting to go away. Oh, there he is. I. I can't explain that, people. It's October and we can get ice cream. Maybe it's like.
Maybe
Exactly. I'll say that, Draken. There's probably like an evil clown in that car coming to get me.
you'll float too.
Mm hmm. Okay then. Well, that was a fun little diversion. Okay then. But back to talking about piracy, and then we'll go to the next topic. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like
But
again.
yeah, I mean, piracy really doesn't really have any major uh, downside. I mean, like the only really major downside is to people who are really abusing the industry.
Yeah.
Mostly AAA's who does all this bad stuff. They put abusive microtransactions in the game to they
Mm-hmm.
put hassling mechanics that are just here. Let me pay for the solution kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and all this kinds of thing. And people do not like that. People do not want to support that kind of developer, and they will absolutely pirate that game and not support it and
Mm-hmm.
because they want to play that game. It's a fun game. It's an enjoyable game. And if they were not abusive with their monetary transactions, they would have fallen into the point where they would, have bought the game. But
Mm-hmm.
since it was so abusive, they're just, pirating it to avoid the abuse.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that applies to pretty much anybody watching these videos because I doubt
Mm.
any AAA studio owners, people who are in charge of putting the microtransactions and abusive practices, are watching
Mhm.
these videos. If
Or
they
are
are,
they?
hello, you know, hello,
Every time
Adam,
I get an internet issue and we talk about EA or Ubisoft,
hello, Bobby Kotick.
dun dun dun. Maybe that was
You can
him in
put
the
that
ice
in.
cream truck.
Oh, Bobby Kotick is the evil clown in the ice cream truck.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can actually include Bobby Kotick in your listing on your tags for game wisdom for the game wisdom video, and you'll get a lot more views for putting his name in there.
All
We
right.
now have artificial reason to put his name in there.
All right. But I think with that, let's move on to our weird game segment, and then we'll get to our final topic. So let me switch things around. Ta-da! Alright, so let's see what is coming out this week in terms of the strangeness. So, Graveyard Keeper is getting another bit of DLC. I already got the press key for it. I just don't know if I want to go back to that game again.
Yeah, it had lots of issues. All of their games do,
Mm-hmm.
except
Xeno
for their first one. Their
Fight Club or Punch Club.
yeah, yeah, Punch Club. Punch Club was quite solid.
Hmm.
It wasn't perfect, but it was quite solid. These others don't seem to be that way.
Here's some serendipity. We were talking about classic games and cartridges and all that. This is a crowd-funded port of a Sega Mega Drive Genesis title, Xenocrisis. Hmm,
Hmm.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Is it online multiplayer or just co-op? Play solo or local? I
Well,
don't.
if it's going on Steam, local co-op is now online co-op.
Uh,
You heard about that update, didn't you?
oh yeah, I think Mojo posted about that. Very interesting. I mean, if they can make every one of these local co-op games technically be online co-op, that would add some insane value to some of these titles.
Insane value to releasing your game on Steam only too, because
Oh
if
yeah.
you release it elsewhere, it's just going to be local.
Oh good. Again, take a drink every time there's a hentai related game coming out. Everyone will be knocked out by the end of this part.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, what is this? Last Shark Standing.
Uh-oh.
What the heck is this?
Sounds like my kind of game. It's a game for shark.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And it can be 7 different playable sharks.
Oh snap!
I think you have to get this game from Shark Fin Games. Dun
Oh
dun dun.
snap! I gotta get that development studio too.
Mm-hmm. Chomp them up.
I'll eat them.
Pathologic 2 is getting some DLC. I heard that game is not doing well.
The world is at History Warriors.
Wait, what?
The one right above the last shark
Oh
standing.
no. What the? Ooh. What?
Heck,
Oh no.
is that a fighting game?
Yes. Oof.
Heck,
Mm. Talk about like difference between front loading your game and then not front loading with Pathologic.
yeah.
Let's see. More hentai, even more hentai. Goose.io.
That's a good question, Handley. I can't answer that, and I don't have the knowledge base for that one.
Me neither. Didn't I predict we are going to see Goose related games last week?
Oh yeah, that was pretty obvious. So.
Yeah, I know. That was an easy bet right there.
Yeah.
Molly.
I was like, I bet you tomorrow the sun's going to rise.
Well, I was not expecting that footage by that thumbnail. Wait a minute. Hold on. What was that thumbnail I just saw? That looks very suspicious. I think that guy just took the model from Tim Curry's Pennywise and put it into the game.
Very possibly. Have you noticed a theme with
Mm-hmm.
the it theme today?
Mm-hmm.
I've got my it.
Yeah, something's going on here.
Yeah. Is it coming true right now?
Mm-mm. I'm
Are we
very
all going to float
afraid
to?
to click on this one. Oh, more pinball. Rampage my... Ooh. That is hurting my eyes. Let me guess, it's a Battle
Is it
Royale game.
is it hurting your eyes because of colors, or is it hurting your eyes because
Maybe a
the
little bit of
graphics are very
both.
low poly and
I mean, it does know that I like retro style synthwave and neon, but that may be a little too much. Oh god, that text. Alright, my head's already bothering me. I can't look at this game much longer. Wait, is this what I think it is? Oh, this is another one of them. The Atelier?
yeah, the Artillery series. I didn't know they were coming out with a new one already.
I think somebody I know is playing this, or playing one of them. Huh.
I play a lot of them, but I haven't
I
played that one.
I own one of them. I don't ask me which one it was. I liked it. Huh, that could be something interesting. Although Koei Tecmo usually is not good for giving me press keys. But maybe.
But what you didn't realize from that game is that it's basically almost like a roguelike, but it's very long playthroughs each time.
Hmm.
Generally, I mean, you can have a short playthrough, but
Why is this rated AO? I don't know what this game is. There's no genre, Shark. How do I know what this game is about?
it surely has to be indie genre.
Why is it AO? I'm confused here. There's no
Maybe because
developer either. It's a phantom game.
oh snap! There's no developer. It's rated AO, and there's no genres. Holy snap!
Schrodinger's game. It exists, but it doesn't.
Exactly.
Oh no. And there's no requirements at all.
Oh
Oh.
snap! You ain't even gotta have a computer or a phone or anything. It'll
You
just
don't know.
play magically in front of you.
It's playing right now.
Exactly.
Jigsaw Women. No, I'm not clicking on that. Nope. Oh, they're bringing. Oh,
Space Candy.
they're bringing the Disney games. Oh, good. Two of the hardest ones, Aladdin and The Lion King. Oh, I hated the Lion King game back in the day. That was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Mojo's watching. We would need this instant rewind like every 2 seconds in The Lion King. No, that's just going to be jump, rewind. Not even jump, just rewind beforehand. Phantom Dust, is that the third person kind of like combat meets TCG game? I played that once at GameStop and never again. Didn't they port that to modern, or they allow it to be backwards compatible?
I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, that was like one of those games that you either heard and loved about it, or you never played it. Pixel Zoo. Oh, it's an indie game. Well, now we're back to normal. Okay, we're good. Care for your pixels. 2-player co-op. Story-driven. No heavy management. I would love to see someone take that whole zoo tycoon things and run with it.
Hmm.
I know they're Planet Coaster's doing a zoo-related game right now. I will eat you. What the heck? What? If there's a shark in this, it would be perfect.
Oh yeah, it'd be another game for Shark.
Ooh, earn rare achievements. Have fun,
Yeah.
game. Okay. How's
I
it
hate to tell
mess?
them that every game you can earn rare achievements as long as it has achievements in it.
I love this screenshot right here.
Oh yeah.
That's like me in every stealth game. Right there. By High. Dark Zone Defense. Bouncy Bob. Not as many horror games coming out.
What's that Dusk one? Dusk something horror?
What was it? Dusk Golem. What? 3 short playable horror stories.
Kind of looks like RPG Maker.
I was thinking of that too. Bouncy Bob. Arcadia. Traps Ahead. The Pepper Prince. Okay.
No.
In the Bag.
We need the Salty Prince.
Mm-hmm.
He's on Twitch.
What?
And who knows who he is, because there's a lot of Salty Princes on Twitch.
Uh-huh. Your goal should be to beef John. Okay. What the heck? Okay. No, we can't say it wasn't different. The new...
Definitely fit the weird game segment.
Uh-huh. Another game that has an AO rating, and I don't know why.
The Leopard Cat Girl in...
That should bring a Draken back if he hasn't left already. Before arriving at the terminal...
There's Draken right there.
I don't know.
It's this Nigerian prince game.
I'm sure there have been a few. Alright, one more page and then we'll move on. Soul Reaper, what's this? RPG, loot, monster collecting, and turn-based strategy. That hits a lot of good points. Oh, good, it's listing all the games. Didn't we say not to be directly inspired?
Mm-hmm. Or at least not to list them in your description.
Yeah. I'm going to guess it has an indie tag. Yay, I was right.
Of course, because it's an indie game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That genre. The genre of developer.
Mm-hmm. Doors of Silence. Oh no. Oh, taking place in Pennsylvania.
I feel like Key Mellor is discriminating because there's no AAA tag. Or double A tag. Or single A tag.
Ooh, you're talking about salty people? We have Salting the Earth.
Uh-oh.
Is this a visual novel game? Oh yes, I was right. Ooh, with 5+ hours of playtime.
5+ hours of clicking the left button or the right button.
Or spacebar.
Yeah.
Binky Show?
That sounds like a horror game. With the It theme.
What is going on here? I should have put a clown in the thumbnail art today.
It seems like just a bunch of empty terrain.
I know, there's nothing there.
Maybe that's the theme behind the game, is there's nothing there.
Alright. But I think with that, let's get to our final topic. We'll spend a few minutes on this, and then we'll wrap it up for the week. So this is one that we've talked about many times before in little bits and pieces. But the idea of front-loading video games. And this has been something that we've seen as a very big trend among Twitch and YouTube games these days. That they just pretty much seem more about the audience and about like a very quick gameplay loop than making something that's like too involved or too in-depth.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's many ways to look at this. I mean, you have like the general AAA way to front load your game, and that's don't put any of your bad monetization up front.
Mm-hmm.
You'll let them get into the game a little bit before you spring that on them, and also like put the one super awesome thing in your game right at the front, and once you've experienced that, there's never going to be anything that awesome again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we often see that in like God of War games where there's this huge epic boss fight
Mm-hmm.
right in the first 5 minutes, and then there's nothing that huge or epic throughout the rest of the game, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the so the other way is you've got to hook the player, and putting front loading your game to a certain point is really good for hooking the player.
Mm-hmm.
And every developer needs to hook the player. Um, the issue is when the front load is the only load, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you need to not have all of your content that's good in the first few minutes, but you do need to have a good bit of hooking, front
Mm-hmm.
loading to hook them at the beginning, so they'll keep on playing, so they'll be invested to keep on going.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want them to keep on going and just not have anything else special happen,
Yeah.
and that's where we run into issues.
Or with a lot of the games that just seem to be built about one crazy, wacky premise, something that, you know, you get like 5 to 10 minutes of enjoyment out of, and there's still like 4 or 5 hours more of the game. Or a
Mm-hmm.
game that is simply, again, that we said this before, the quote unquote YouTube bait games. Like you see like these wacky games that's like, yeah, it's like, okay, you're doing that, and you're watching the YouTuber scream and holler like they discovered, they just won $1 million.
Exactly. And other point for YouTubers is if you are able to hook them sooner, they're likely to give your game more coverage. They're likely to even give your game coverage the more front loaded it is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if you don't have good content throughout your game, it doesn't have to be as flashy. I mean, you definitely want some flashy stuff in there, but it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to be as flashy as that. I think the only thing that would have to be as flashy as the front loading is the final boss kind of thing.
Yeah. And
But you definitely want some flash throughout the game.
yeah.
You want the player to always have something to look forward to, just maybe not to the same scale and insane work as the first one.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to point out that we're not talking about playability or onboarding in this conversation. Making your game easier to learn or making the UI better. That's not front loading your title. That's just making a really great game. Like we're talking about games that deliberately are built around, that first explosive moment just to get your foot in the door and then do nothing to follow up on that.
Yeah. And back to game God of War, there's one God of War, I forget which one it is, but you start off that game and you're fighting this huge, I think it's a giant
Yeah.
that, Kratos can like run around in circles in the palm of his hand kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like scaling him like all kind of
Yeah.
what's that one game with all the
Shadow of the Colossus.
yeah, Shadow of the Colossus kind of style. And it's this huge epic fight that is basically unfellable kind of thing. You'd have to
Mm-hmm.
really try to fell it, as your intro to the game, and that just gives this huge epic intro to your game. It's really hooky. It's really
Mm-hmm.
front loaded.
The same with Tomb Raider. Every one of the recent Tomb Raider games started with Laura, crashing into a place, escaping from some dangerous situation, and then that has like nothing to do with the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Chronos Colossus fighting God of War 2 is another good one. God of War 3 begins with you literally scaling Mount Olympus, riding the Titans, and I think you kill Poseidon like the opening act, or you kill one of the gods in the first 10 minutes of playing God of War 3.
Yeah, and I think some of them are, try to make you feel like you're super powerful in that opening
Mm-hmm.
hook too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I mean, front loading is both a good thing and a bad, because if you front load and that is the only real good thing in your game, your players are going to get past that point, and maybe they'll ride that high for a few hours or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But after a certain point, they're going to be like, I thought this game was cool, but it's not really that good.
Yeah.
I'm dropping the game.
Mm-hmm. And like what we saw, like if you can compare and contrast Outlast 2 to that Moons of Madness, Outlast 2 begins, with you crashing into this crazy place. Your wife is missing. It's all horrible and nasty. And then that Moons of Madness, the first 40 minutes was us just literally doing maintenance work on the space station.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go change the paper here. We have to go turn off the leak.
And the fact is if a YouTuber does cover your game and they're not already playing it and know what's going on, they're probably not going to give it more than a few minutes. I mean, like, with my game, besides my personal friends that were YouTubers,
Mm-hmm.
Nobody covered past the second map. A lot of people didn't even cover the second map of Chromasia.
Mm-hmm.
And there's your word of the day, Mojo, since he's right in the chat at this moment. But he, they never, again, our tutorial goes all the way up to the fifth map. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot to the game, but nobody ever even finished a tutorial kind of thing, except for like personal friends. I think you and Dolphin V were the only ones that did YouTube videos past the second map. I think only one YouTuber did even the second map.
Mm.
The others, one of them showed the second map but did not play it, and I don't think anybody else actually even showed the second map.
I remember this story I read about some like company paying like a Twitch streamer to play their game, and she was just like completely not into it at all. And like it reminds a lot of AI Wars, like AI Wars 2 that we tried to play a little bit on stream. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I stopped playing it because I couldn't show anything if I didn't know how to play the game. And I just think like AI Wars 2 will probably be a game that most people are not going to cover at all because of that. Because it's not good at front loading.
Mm-hmm. But you got to hook the player, and front loading is a good method of hooking the player.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't use it to bad means. I mean, you'll put good means behind it, and don't make that the only good content in your game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I think one of the things, and I think like one of the things about like a lot of these games is that there has to be more than just that initial hook to it. But like, what do you think about those games that again like are explicitly YouTuber bait? Like again, like the picture that I use for our piece today, Goat Simulator.
I don't think those games are front loaded. I think they're just I don't know. They're more meme loaded kind of thing. Just or just frustrating to be frustrating. I mean, like there was that one game, that one car game where you played as a guy in a foreign country, and I forget the name of the game, but it was nothing but frustration kind of thing, and all you did was repair a car, and it wasn't even like all that good, and then you would drive around, and their derpy physics would like sometimes catapult your car 10 miles away while you're driving it and spin it, and you would have the YouTuber reaction, and YouTubers like just covered the hell out of that game because it was just so buggy and glitchy, and would just cause these crazy meme worthy things that would happen. And same thing with Goat Simulator. It was just a physics simulator, and then like weird, crazy bug-like crap would happen, and your goat would do crazy crap, and you get the YouTuber freaking out.
Yeah, And the problem for me is that, like, because I look at stuff on YouTube gaming, I get all the big name YouTubers doing their reactions at video games. If you really want some cringe, there's people who collect like compilations of YouTube reactions, and it's all just the same thing, just a different face.
Yeah, you know, somebody needs to do this if they haven't already. Somebody needs to take that collection and make a song out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Collection of just make a song based on the tones and everything of the
Mm-hmm.
screams and just go to town with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be hilarious.
And I think like, and this is I think one of the things that's a little bit more cynical. Like we've seen more developers try to embrace that stream friendly, YouTube friendly audience. And I think it's come at detriment to like the long term value of their games.
Yeah, I mean, I think there needs to be a balance. I think
Yeah.
that you need to slightly embrace the YouTuber thing, and by slightly, I mean you need to embrace it enough to hopefully get them to cover your game, but don't embrace it past that point. Like if you have money to pay them, that's all you need to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have if you have a gameplay loop that they're really into, then that as long as it's an interesting looking one, visually, and they're probably going to be into it, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like like we're looking at card game streamers for our Project Triad. I looked at RPG streamers and video makers for Chromasia, but the thing is with Chromasia we weren't visually appealing, so we basically got nobody to cover. We did not appeal to the
Mm-hmm.
creators enough. So there needs to be a minimum level of, or there's encouraged to be a minimum level in there, but
Mm-hmm.
not push it to the point where, oh, this is just a meme game and here, have
It
fun,
distracts
YouTubers.
from the game, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like what makes this a very tough topic, and one we probably don't have time to get fully into for tonight, is that again there are people who will misconstrue what we're saying as don't make your game playable. Make your game like La Mulana or Dark Souls, or make it super difficult. Make it that the players to jump through 20 hoops before they actually figure out this game, and then they'll fall in love with it, kind of thing. But that's the opposite problem. Like, just as you can front load a game so much that it doesn't work, you can back load a game to the point that, again, you have to spend 15, 20 hours before you can actually figure out what's going on in it.
Yeah. I mean, our last game was definitely backloaded, but it wasn't backloaded to the point where you couldn't figure it out. It was just
Mm-hmm.
backloaded to where, I mean, a big part of the game's enjoyment was, or the game's flash, rather, the flash and polish is at the very end in the final boss fight, which is why that I encourage people very, very heavily, if you own the game, to play the final boss fight, because
Mm-hmm.
it is it is a whole new level of enjoyment once you get there, because there's I mean the gameplay, well, I mean technically the gameplay changes because the whole it's a whole separate combat system in there,
Mm-hmm.
because we had to, because of the boss fight being a multi-tiled setup, and you couldn't do a multi-tiled setup in the regular default thing. Um, but the boss is absolutely huge, and
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of effects, particle effects, and all kinds of like like things that make you wonder how in the heck does this fit the game, kind of thing. And it does fit the game, and you just have to get farther. You have to really kind of get into the stuff behind the scenes that that's not spelled out to you to actually
Mm-hmm.
understand it. And
Yep.
that's one thing that we definitely need to fix.
Mm-hmm.
But the the amount of polish at the end of the game is a lot higher, way higher, worlds higher than it is at any other point of the game.
Hmm. And you run into that problem that, again, like as they say, the first level of your game should be the last level you design, because you want that first level to pop. You want to get people, get the foot in the door for them. But then you could set unrealistic expectations that then the second level is horrible. They're going to think that you just have bait and switch.
Mm. I think that an intro cutscene, like really, on like RPGs and maybe action games and a lot of other games, does definitely go towards the front loading of a game because
Mm-hmm.
you've seen many games that had a little intro cutscene or an intro
Mm-hmm.
video kind of thing that really kind of just popped. I mean, we had an intro you know on our last, but it was relatively short. I'm told, even
Mm-hmm.
though it was pretty long compared to the rest of them. I mean, most of our cutscenes in the Chromasia was I think maybe 10 lines or so, but the first one was probably about 80 or so, and people
Mm-hmm.
just flew through it, kind of thing. And they're like, "That's kind of too short." And then everybody said that the cutscene at the Red Castle really dragged on, and I think that was like something like 200 lines. So it seemed like 200 lines dragged, but 180 just flew through, kind of thing. And that the 5 to 10 were just average, kind of thing. It's like, how does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's sort of a perspective to where you're at the beginning of the game, you're fresh, so you can obtain the data and everything faster, maybe. And then as you're going through, your kind of ability to absorb stuff fast, shrinks down,
Mm-hmm.
and as you get through, like you're just adding more onto the stack, kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it's gets harder and harder each time.
Mm-hmm. And like speaking about, again, like games that front load them, like again, like we go back to Lazy Bear games, like their titles all have really great hooks to them, and then it just goes downhill from there. Like they're really great at getting you into them, but then the gameplay itself just doesn't compensate for the rest of the experience.
Yeah, I mean the I think front loading also kind of has to do with the aesthetic to a point. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't technically have to do with it, but it does at the same time. If you understand where I'm going with that one,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but it's sort of kind of a tangent, but also not a tangent. So I mean,
Yeah. All right, but I think we'll begin to wrap things up because we're a little bit away from 2 hours in, and again, like this is one of those topics I think it kind of leads to multiple tangents in terms of design that are definitely too big to try and fit into like the next 15-20 minutes. So I guess, do you have any final thoughts, Shark?
um, I think that's it. I was expecting front loading to be a bigger topic than it was,
Mm-hmm. And then the time one, we spent a lot more on that, a lot more time, no pun intended.
but did they get a lot more enjoyment out of it?
I don't know, did they? Was the chaffing there? Finish your well, and then Dragon timed it perfectly to finish his dinner. All right, but yeah, again, like there's a lot of different aspects that we can come. Ooh, my mouth just stopped there. That we can come back to in later pieces. So if there's anything you want us to focus specifically on when it comes to front loading, back loading, playability, whatever, let us know in the comments, and we'll add that to our never-ending list of topics. But I think with that, we'll end things for this week. So thank you, everybody, new or returning for enjoying, we'll be back for our regular game stream around 9:30 EST tonight, and our weekly shows start around 3:34 p.m. EST most Sundays. So I'll be including Shark's Discord link in the description down below when this goes up recorded. But if people want to follow you, Shark, what are the best ways to do that?
Well, you can follow the Twitter, Nexus Games INC, the number one, on Twitter, and we're going to be putting a bunch of photos up soon of some Project Triad stuff, and you've seen the beginning stages of some of those. I think they're turning out quite well. So we'll be starting that soon, and be putting updates and stuff like that. As well as you can join our Discord. There's no link right now in the live stream, but when this goes up recorded, there will be a link. But there will be a link right now to Josh's Discord, the Game Wisdom Discord. You can come in there, PM me, and ask for a link to my Discord, and I'm Sharky on there, just like I am on here.
Alright, and you can follow me on Twitter at GW and besides the website here, you can find my written work on game-wisdom.com. But that is going to do it for this week, so have a great night, and come back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where is the art and science of games. Until our next talk, take care everybody.